I am thinking of starting a new organization, Applications Anonymous, or Apps Anonymous. I am an appaholic. I am addicted to apps. Why? It was December 21st, 1986, a day, an hour, a minute, a moment of impact that changed our lives forever. My husband, Jim, our only child, 5-year-old Kara, and I were skiing at an area 10 miles from our Colorado home. Kara fell and was trying to get up. An out-of-control skier slammed into her. His ski tip shattered her skull. She stopped breathing. Jim and another skier who heard our frantic screams for help started mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The ski patrol continued this as they took Kara down the mountain. A Flight for Life helicopter from the closest hospital equipped to deal with such significant neurotrauma landed in the parking lot. Kara was lifted into it, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation continuing. We kissed her goodbye. We could not go with her in the helicopter. Jim and I somehow made the drive home, made frantic phone calls to family, and found friends who would drive us the 90 miles to this hospital. Kara was already in surgery. She had been rushed to the OR as soon as the helicopter landed. Her initial surgery was more than 4 hours as the neurosurgeon removed bone fragments and damaged brain tissue from her right hemisphere. I remember him walking down the hall to meet us. After he explained the gravity of the situation, he said, "I would not have done anything unless I felt she had a chance at some sort of quality of life." Those words were to sustain us in the long weeks and months to come. Kara was in a deep coma, on a ventilator. She would require more surgeries to reduce the swelling in her brain. Faith, family, and friends kept us going. We heard over and over, "God never gives you any more than you can handle." And I would want to scream, what kind of a God does this to an innocent 5-year-old girl? Despite my grief and anger, my faith anchored me and kept me going during some of my weakest moments. Weeks went by. Kara remained in a coma. Jim said, "I am so afraid she will not know who I am if she ever wakes up." On February 15th, 8 weeks after her injury, she became more active and slowly whispered, "Hi, Dad." Finally, after 3 long months, we brought Kara home. How do you begin to put a shattered life back together? No 2 brain injuries are alike. There are no set pathways or guidelines to follow as to how a person recovers. It's not like a broken arm where you can predict what will happen in 6 weeks. Kara's left side was paralyzed. She could not walk. She was barely talking. We learned she had significant vision loss and would be legally blind. She began to have seizures. The long process of rehab continued with hours upon hours of physical, occupational, and speech therapy. We made plans for her to return to kindergarten. I felt if we just worked hard enough, we could find the keys to unlock the old Kara. It was exhausting. I remember driving her home from physical therapy. She was slumped over in the seat, just worn out. And I had the thought, perhaps it would have been better if she had died. And I wondered what kind of a mother was I to even have such thoughts. She had fought so hard to live, and I was overcome with guilt and shame. Slowly, things eased up. Kara would walk again, and she wowed us with the tremendous spirit that she has. She attended school in inclusive classrooms with neighborhood friends. She had modified curriculums as she would not be able to read, understand math, tell time, or understand math and money concepts. But she had supportive classmates and teachers. She loved being part of life in our small community, and she was valued and cared about. Jim and I were able to find support and guidance from other parents who had children with disabilities. Despite Kara's many physical challenges, we never stopped living. Kara showed us she was not about to spend her life sitting on a couch watching life go by. One summer morning, I got up early and took a 10-year-old Kara and 2 of her cousins to Snowmass, a Colorado mountain resort about 40 miles from our house, to watch a hot air balloon festival. It was a beautiful, clear blue mountain sky, and the balloons were so cool to watch. We found a spot where free rides were being offered. Essentially, the balloon was tethered and you could go up and down in the air about 75 feet. We got in line and the kids were so excited. All of a sudden, Kara went down with a seizure. Someone yelled, "I'll call 911. As her seizure was ending, the paramedics arrived. I declined their offers of help as we had weathered so many of these seizures. I got her up, dusted her off, and we got back in line. I took a long, hard look at the basket and visualized what would happen if she would pitch forward or backwards with another seizure. I knew she'd be safe. We lifted the kids in the basket, and as the balloon rose in the air, the kids were laughing and smiling and waving. And right behind me, clutching their medical bags with looks of absolute astonishment on their faces, were the paramedics, watching the balloon go up and watching the balloon come back down again. Kara was growing up and thinking about the future, and she would tell us, "I want my own life. I want my own house when I grow up." So I began going to conferences that focused on people with disabilities, and I became intrigued with technology. And as Kara grew into young adulthood, technology in the form of a PC and very expensive customized software became the key that would open the door to an independent life. This software provided timed voice prompts in the developer's own voice that would guide her through the day. It included step-by-step picture and audio prompts for cooking and other household tasks that she would follow on the PC. She practiced with this system at our house and did well, but she didn't always follow the voice reminders, as she didn't like anybody else telling her what to do. Nevertheless, by 2007, we were able to move her into her own little house about 6 blocks from our home. Kara thrived with her independence and blossomed. She had a support person during the day to help her get out and about and participate in activities and events throughout our community. But as her day began and ended, she was on her own, living an independent life because of this system. I would like to have told others about the possibilities of this system, but I was keenly aware that with a price tag of over $6,000, it was out of the reach of many. Kara continued to grow in independence and self-sufficiency when our family faced another challenge. Jim had to contend with complications from a benign brain tumor. Surgery had removed the tumor, but he had brain infections, which required more surgeries to insert brain shunts to drain cerebral spinal fluid. He struggled with memory and organization. Things had to be written down for him to remember. He used 2 to 3 calendars and notebooks to try and track his day, and he would misplace them. It was a very difficult time for me, as I would have to remind myself I would not ask a blind man to just look or a deaf man to just listen, and I shouldn't ask someone with memory problems to just remember. They needed tools to allow them to successfully navigate the world. In 2011, I discovered the iPod Touch, and I found some great apps that became Jim's memory in his pocket. He regained so much pride and dignity with this technology. I began researching apps, thinking maybe there were some apps that could help Kara. Yes, I became an appaholic. In the spring of 2012, I transitioned Kara to an iPad and the 2 apps that would guide her life, for a cost of less than $450. We utilized Ada Reminder app, which cost 99 cents. 99 cents. This app allowed Kara to record her own voice to give the voice reminders that she needed to move through her day. These voice reminders would go off automatically, with no need for her to have to interact with or go to her iPad to hear them. Kara could argue with herself now too, as these voice reminders became the inner voice in her head telling her what to do. It goes kind of like this. She talks in a monotone, so she'll say, "Kara, have you gotten a chance to eat your lunch yet?" And she'll reply, "On it, did it, doing it."
Have you gotten
Oh, there we go.
chance
On it, got it, doing it. Pictello at $18.99 allowed us to create Kara's favorite recipes and household tasks, again with the step-by-step picture and audio prompts for her to follow on her iPad. She loves following her famous cookie recipes as she bakes cookies every week for the police and the fire department. I found great apps that allowed her to build a vocabulary of sight words, apps that opened a window to the world with things like FaceTime and Facebook, and amazing apps that enriched her life and gave her many more leisure time opportunities. I was so excited to do this, and I wanted to teach others how technology could create and support an independent life for those with memory and cognitive challenges. This technology was finally affordable and easy to use. I became passionate about teaching others how to use these systems. I started out on a small scale by doing show and tell at our local brain injury support group. Kara loved to demonstrate what she could do, and we spoke to many local and regional groups that supported folks with cognitive challenges. We really felt like we were making a difference. Technology changed us, and we changed technology. In September of 2012, Apple came out with a new operating system, iOS 6, which was to make the iPad even better. I read about what the update would do to the Ada Reminder app, and I learned that the automatic voice function that Kara lived by would no longer be available. I emailed the developer and he confirmed this. The Reminder app would work, but only if Kara came to the iPad, opened the app, and then touched the reminder to hear it. Impossible for her and for so many others who could have benefited from this app. I did not update my Kara's iPad or my phone or the iPod Touch that transformed Jim's life. I thought, if I can just get a hold of someone at Apple and tell them how life-changing this was, well, they would fix it. I emailed, I wrote letters, I called. No one listened. I lived in fear of her iPad crashing. And meanwhile, the operating system updated to iOS 7, and then in 2014 to iOS 8. I kept her old faithful iPad in iOS 5. Early in 2014, we became one of 5 founding families of a Colorado-based grassroots group called Families at the Forefront of Technology. All of us have children with disabilities who rely on many different technologies to assist them. Our vision is to continue to discover new technologies, educate others on the technological resources available, and influence the policymakers and producers that shape the tech industry. In October of 2014, Families at the Forefront of Technology hosted a conference in Snowmass. One of the attendees, Sherry Ladislas from Trinity Services in Chicago, heard our story and said, well, let's just start a petition on change.org to get Apple to listen and fix this. In March of 2015, with the help of Sherry and her agency, we launched Kara's Own Voice on change.org. Kara loves a good protest and totally got into it by holding her poster asking Apple to make the changes to its operating system. We even picketed outside an Apple store in Denver. Once he heard our story, the store manager invited us inside to continue our protest. She especially loved gaining the support of our local fire department. We quickly learned how to harness the power of social media with tweets, Instagram, and Facebook. We didn't go viral, but the number of people signing our petition and leaving comments slowly grew. By mid-May, I received an email from Apple Accessibility wanting to speak with me. That first phone call lasted 34 minutes as I explained what we were asking for. It followed with more emails and phone calls directly with Apple Accessibility. And meanwhile, people across the country and around the world continue to sign our Kara's Own Voice petition on change.org and leave great comments directed towards Apple Accessibility. In July, the app developer and Apple Accessibility told me that the original voice function would be brought back with the September release of iOS 9. I was like a little kid. I was so excited I could hardly wait. In September, when I was able to update Kara's iPad and the app, I saw this in the Apple App Store and on the app. Voice reminders are back, thanks to Alice and Kara. Thank you. With this update, I am committed to spreading the idea of the power of technology to transform lives, like an iPad and 2 apps. I know this mainstream technology can readily assist those with memory and cognitive challenges to lead the most self-sufficient and connected life possible in their homes, in their communities, and in their work lives. These cognitive challenges may arise from a brain injury, the signature war wound of Iraq and Afghanistan, an intellectual or developmental disability, or the aging process. Look around. Some of us here today will experience cognitive challenges as we age. This technology will support our self-sufficiency. As I am fortunate enough to speak at conferences and share our story, I am touched and blessed when family members come up to me and say, "You gave me hope for the future. I can see an independent life for my child with disabilities." Many of us with children with disabilities have lived with the thought that happiness for us would mean knowing that our child died 5 minutes before we did. I heard these chilling words expressed by another mom, and I could relate. I had so many fears for Kara's future. Technology has changed all of this. Kara is living and will continue to live her dream of an independent life in her own house because of technology. I invite you, no, I challenge you to think about the possibilities that technology will offer to those with differing abilities. Our family has lived with the belief that there is no measure of the human spirit, meaning nothing is impossible. This idea worth spreading is how technology can maximize that human spirit and provide dignity and self-determination for an independent life. Thank you.